Hi my fellow gamers, it's me Mr. Decimator here. I'm here to share a small thought. Well, more like a theory of mine about the epilogue of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. It's about how Ezio impeccably remembered and found out that this one-eyed thief is the betrayer behind the villa attack, which is insane given the fact that he saw the guy in the middle of a siege just for a few seconds but somehow remembered this minute detail in a crystal clear fashion after a huge time span of 3 years. I consider this as one of the most important events in Ezio's life. Had he not remembered this guy from his memory at that night of villa attack, he might not be in a position to solidify the stance of Machiavelli's loyalty to La Volpe so that he can stop the skirmish that was about to happen between the two of his close friends, and would have lost one of them that night in Roma. This whole chain of events impinged so well in Ezio's hippocampus that he decided to leave the only clue, yes, I say it again, the only clue for the location of the piece of Eden in the exact same place where he spotted the thief. The clue was drawn in the form of an equilateral triangle called the tetractys, revealing the number 72, which is considered as one of the most important number for the modern assassins. But why 72? As evident in the scrolls of Romulus, the earliest known user of the number 72 as the password to the vault was Marcus Junius Brutus, circa 45 BCE. The next known person to open the vault was Ezio Auditore da Firenze in 1506, to seal the apple of Eden he possessed within. Due to Desmond Miles' vision of Ezio in the sanctuary, it was known that Ezio later returned to the Villa Auditore to leave behind the clues to the password, which would allow future assassins to access the vault and obtain the apple. Bringing you guys to the present, Desmond emerged from the Animus after reliving Ezio's final memory, listening to his fellow assassins, trying to deduce a way to get into the vault. Just as Rebecca mentioned that they needed a spoken password to enter it, a blackout occurred, cutting them off from using the Animus to find out the vault's location. However, Desmond somehow realized that the symbol he had just seen on the door of the vault beneath Santa Maria Arcoli, whose location is unknown to him at that point, was the same one he had seen drawn on the villa wall, which were only visible to those who possessed the gift of eagle vision. When the group of assassins first arrived at Monteriggioni and gained access to the sanctuary, Desmond noticed and read out the numbers written into the wall. Sean Hastings posited them to indicate years, though he could not think of their significance to each other. But Sean comes in with a clutch of a smart deduction that the sequence of numbers hidden behind the symbol referred to the 72 names of the god, setting the password to be 72 and thereby links the fact that the construction of the Colosseum began in 72 AD from the clue of the 3 years Ezio wrote on the villa wall. 1419, 1420 and 1421. Which, he had no idea before when Desmond asked during their initial days in Monteriggioni, but somehow he takes it out of his history book of a brain now, on that particular day, pointing out the 72 names of God found in the Bible's book of Exodus, contained within chapter 14, verses of 19 to 21. It is as if something's pushing them all to the final destination. Having obtained the password, the assassins left the sanctuary and headed for the Colosseum. During the infiltration of the vault of the Colosseum, Lucy was the first to find the eccentricity of that particular day.
Something's bothering me. Guess how many days there are until the Templar satellite launch?
I have a feeling I know the answer. 72.
Why is today so important? We're just picking up the apple and leaving.
The day they were about to acquire the apple was exactly spaced 72 days from the Templar satellite launch, which was scheduled on December 21st. Ironically, Lucy was the first one to notice this and to ask Desmond that, how Ezio, a Renaissance assassin, knew about this day so definitely. I said ironically because Lucy was the only one so concerned about this, especially if you know what happens to her that day. And this is the exact day when Desmond for some insane reason decided not to tell Lucy about his visions of Juno, even though he shared almost every single one of his visions and the smallest bleeding effects with her in the past. She was easily the innermost person of his circle, his confidant. Still, something inhibited Desmond to share that information to anyone, let alone Lucy, thereby preventing her from having an upper hand over the events that transpired next.
What's going on, Desmond?
Nothing.
Once Desmond touches the apple, Juno controls Desmond to kill the only ominous person in the vault, which to everyone's shock, is Lucy Stillman, who has in fact been a double agent for the Templars all these years. So how does this happen? Now, why would Juno force him to do so? For starters, Lucy was a Templar, a double agent.
Still, let's look at Juno's conversation with Desmond.
On the 72nd day before the moment of awakening, you, birthed from our loins and the loins of our enemies, the end and the beginning, whom we abhor and honor, the final journey commences. There is one who would accompany you through the gate. She lies not within our sight.
Someone will accompany Desmond on his final journey, a female. This female is not, however, with Desmond at this time. It's obviously not Lucy. Now, I personally feel that throughout the story in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, Desmond and Lucy have been developing feelings for each other, which would most likely lead to a more romantic relationship between the two. Since Desmond and Lucy were never meant to be together, and this path that Desmond has to continue, he has to do so without Lucy. He's been destined to be on this final journey with another female. And regardless of Desmond's feelings for Lucy, Juno sees her as a threat. Why is she a threat? Perhaps what Juno meant by, "the cross darkens the horizon" is that Lucy has been working with the Templars all along, the cross meaning Abstergo and the Templars. It would explain as to why she disappears from the villa for a few memory sequences, which is when coincidentally the red glowing path also appears outside. At that time she would be outside feeding information to the enemy. Sure, it's easy to analyze it that way. But like I said, I don't think that's the case. Where did Lucy go during the time frame? Perhaps it was actually her turn to run errands. Or perhaps she was just in her room. Yes, her room. She mentions having a room for herself in the emails. When Sean asked her for pain meds, and she replied, "In my room on the windowsill." The only threat that Juno perceived her as is that she could be considered a romantic option for Desmond, which would throw this whole grande scheme out of whack. With her out of the picture, Desmond is free to search for this other female, alone. As he is meant to.
There is one who would accompany you through the gate. She lies not within our sight. The cross darkens the horizon. The path must be opened. It is done. The way lies all before you. Only she remains to be found. Awaken the sixth. Go, alone!
Now, who is this other female, and what does Juno mean by, awaken the sixth? This other female is none other than Eve. Yes, Eve. From Adam and Eve. Not a descendant, but the true Eve. Only he can find her by awakening the sixth. And by sixth Juno is referring to his sixth sense, the eagle vision. The cross darkens the horizon. Abstergo has Eve captive, hidden away, sealed away, locked away somewhere. They quite possibly have her hooked up to some sort of computer system, or they did. I believe that the computer's voice we hear through Subject 16's puzzles is that of Eve.
90% of input missing.
Maybe Abstergo used her as an early prototype for the Animus. We do know that Abstergo had the Animus for a couple of decades, most notably when in one of the clusters there's a letter from 1985 mentioning an early subject, I assume it's Subject 3, in Animus. So I wouldn't be surprised if some fragment of her personality was still used for the modern-day Animus. Or perhaps Subject 16 found this fragment and stored it within his clusters as an operating system of some sorts. As you go through the clusters that Subject 16 created, through every cluster the voice starts to flatter. Near the end you can start to hear a more human side to it, calling out for help.
Where have you been? I missed you.
Especially in the last cluster, the image used in the picture wheel is Adam and Eve. Subject 16 knew of her existence. And Eve knows of Desmond. Now where is Eve? She's in Eden. Subject 16 tells him this in the memory cluster.
Eden. You're in Eden. Find Eve. The key. Her DNA.
Abstergo knows where Eden is, and they're keeping Eve there. Desmond is the only one who can save her. She's the key. Her DNA is the key to the temples. Without her, Desmond can't find the temples containing the apple, but don't forget. Subject 16 says.
Who? She is not who you think she is.
We don't know if he's talking about Lucy, or Juno during this conversation. All we know is that the truth lies with Eve. After all, there's some unknown, or perhaps, known female that cannot be trusted. Now, if Eve is against those who came before, as is Adam, and both rebelled against them, as shown during the truth files of Creed 2, in order to escape enslavement. And Juno is considered a part of this group of those who came before. Wouldn't it maybe, possibly imply that Subject 16 is truly saying not to trust Juno? If all these didn't give you chills down the spine, trust me, this will. The date all these events transpired is the 10th of October, which is today, which for some absurd reason is when all these things popped up in my head. At the end of the day, it's just as I said. It can be a stupid theory.